When it comes to healing a conflict, the most important place to look is within your own self, to see what you can do to help the situation rather than to aggravate it. When you're able to realize that the world as it is exists as it is, and that your role within it is to make it better rather than to react to its negativities, you touch a deeper power within yourself to heal situations as well as heal your own self in the process. When people have, by default, negative perceptions about somebody else, and this is normally the person that they're in conflict with, and that's the only thing they see them as a distorted view of all these negative qualities, it becomes impossible to even want to find a peace, because you don't want to make peace with something that's so negative and something that's so bad and something that's hurt you so badly. But it's important to remember that the common human element is there within both of you, and that when you access that part of yourself, that leads to that other person accessing that part of themselves, and you can see a deeper place of commonality rather than seeing all the differences. A good example to illustrate this is in Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. Luke, after finding out that Darth Vader is his father, goes to Darth Vader to help him redeem his soul and come back to the light side. And Vader, who's still very much stuck on the dark side, takes Luke to the Emperor, and the Emperor knows that Luke is powerful and wants to convert him to the dark side to make him his new subordinate. The Emperor has a window in his throne room and shows all of Luke's ships, of Luke's rebel friends, getting destroyed by the Empire, and he's telling Luke that his friends will not survive and that his entire cause is lost, and that his only option now is to turn to the dark side. Now, the Emperor's goal in doing this is to show Luke all these negative things and to make Luke feel a deep hatred towards the Emperor. Now, that may sound like that's not the sort of thing that would make Luke want to work for the Emperor, but it would work, because the more hate Luke feels, the more likely he is to become very angry, and as soon as he's very angry, he'll turn to the dark side. He'll probably try to kill Darth Vader, probably try to kill the Emperor, fail, at least in killing the Emperor, and then he'll be the Emperor's employee. So, as Luke is watching all this stuff, the Emperor has Luke's lightsaber next to the Emperor's hand, and he says, "You want this. The hate is swelling in you now. With each passing moment, you make yourself more of my servant. You, like your father, are now mine." Now, Luke's intention in this whole situation is very noble. He wants to selflessly help save Darth Vader. He doesn't really care about the Emperor. But Luke is still a human, and he still has things that he's very much attached to and that he wants to see goodness for. And the Emperor is literally displaying how he's destroying everything that Luke holds dear, which would make anybody very upset, and then when you're very upset, you can become very hateful. So Luke continually tells Darth Vader he will not fight him. He will never strike out against his own father. And what Vader does, because Vader's using the Emperor's tactic of making Luke feel hate, he tells Luke that he will turn Luke's sister, Princess Leia, to the dark side, at which point Luke freaks out. He comes out of hiding, he uses his lightsaber, and in pure fury beats Darth Vader in a lightsaber battle, which was neither Obi-Wan or Luke in the previous movie was able to do that. He gets Vader on the ground, and after Vader's on the ground, he hits Vader's lightsaber 3 or 4 times and then cuts his hand off. And the Emperor is cackling as this is happening, because this is exactly what he wanted. Luke looks at Vader's severed hand, which is a robot hand, and then he looks at his own severed hand, which was severed by Vader in the last movie, which is also now a robot hand, and he sees again their commonality, not just as people, but as father and son. And he sees the horror of what he's done, and he throws his lightsaber aside, and he says, "Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me." And the Emperor says, "So be it, Jedi." He realized that his plan didn't work. And he says, "If you will not be turned, you will be destroyed." And he starts doing force lightning on Luke and electrocuting him. And Luke is writhing on the ground and trying to survive, and he's desperately calling out to Darth Vader, "Father, please," over and over. And the Emperor's intensely enjoying this in this very sick way, and he's so engrossed in what he's doing. And the camera pans back and forth between Vader and on Vader's face as he looks to the Emperor to his left, to Luke to his right, the Emperor to his left, Luke to his right. His past life and his future life. His past life and his future life. What choice is he going to make? And after a few lookings back and forth, he picks up the Emperor, gets electrocuted in the process, and throws the Emperor down a shaft. And then he collapses on the ground. He saved his son's life. And as they're leaving the Death Star, Vader says to Luke, as he's being dragged into a ship, being mostly dead, he says, "Luke, help me take this mask off." Luke says, "But you'll die. Nothing can stop that now. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes." Then Luke removes the helmet, and then Luke removes the mask, and what you see underneath is this awfully pale, scarred, charred, unhappy-looking face. This is who was underneath this extremely powerful and cool-looking guy named Darth Vader for all this time. And he sees Luke, and with equanimity and stoicism and maybe love in his eyes, he says, "Now go, son. Leave me. I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you." "You already have, Luke. You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right." Then he looks like he's about to die. He shuts his eyes and his head falls back as the life leaves his body. And Luke says, "Father, don't leave me." And then Luke is kneeled over and cries. Then he takes Vader's body into the ship and then leaves before the Death Star gets exploded again. Got exploded in the first movie and gets exploded in this one. And that's the end of the series. So, the point here being, this principle works. This principle of looking inside your own self and not attacking the person that you have a conflict with, but instead looking to see what you have in common and working from there, because what you really want is love. You do not want conflict. It is a primal thing to want conflict. It is a much deeper and more beautiful thing to want peace and love. And those are the things that we can work on within our own selves, within any conflict that we have with our family, people in business, our friends, whoever we may find around. And the more you're able to access that truly good spot within yourself, the more you can access it in the other person. And though you do the work yourself, and it has the primary effect on you, it also has an effect on other people in ways that you could never imagine. Luke's simple, unrelenting love for his father led Darth Vader to abandon this life that he'd been building up for decades of being a power-mongering, evil, murderous, bad guy. He threw it all away because he really loved his son, and he knew that his son really loved him.